We are 2 games in for the Indiana Fever in the WNBA season, and the Indiana Fever fans are already starting to point the finger and doing the blame game and trying to throw Stephanie White under the bus and also DeWanna Bonner, Tasha Howard. But we're going to unpack all that here next, here on the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Well, guys, the Indiana Fever are 2 games in to the start of the WNBA season, and they have a 1-1 record. And after last night's loss, it seemed like the Indiana Fever fans are already starting to play the blame game. And they are trying to throw Stephanie White under the bus after they lost to the Atlanta Dream 91-90 in a thriller. Now, we all know what Stephanie White brings to the table. She came from a Connecticut Sun team where she led that Connecticut Sun team to the playoff. And then she was eventually hired by the Indiana Fever. And now you see what Connecticut Suns are doing over there. That team is really imploding. And last night, they got the brakes beat off of them by the Las Vegas Aces. And that points me to Stephanie White being a legitimate coach. We all know Stephanie White. She played in the WNBA herself, man. She did. She played with the Indiana Fever as well. And Stephanie White credentials speak for itself. Now, after last night's loss, a lot of Indiana Fever fans took to Twitter and took to social media, voicing their displeasures about Stephanie White, Natasha Howard, and DeWanna Bonner. Now, we know last night DeWanna Bonner didn't have her best game. She had 0 points in 16 minutes and 1 rebound. She's not being effective. And DeWanna Bonner said some comments as she tried to downplay them early in the season about the expectations of the Indiana Fever. But like I said, I didn't have no problem of what DeWanna Bonner said. But now you just got to go out there and play ball. And a lot of people say the Indiana Fever team is championship or bust. But 2 games in, and you're already pointing the finger at your coach, saying that Stephanie White was the reason that the Indiana Fever lost last night. Have you ever stopped to think that the Atlanta Dream was just a better team last night? They was executing on all cylinders. I mean, their defense was swarming. They countered everything that Stephanie White threw at them. And the Atlanta Dream, they just made some adjustments and they pulled off the victory. And it was a great game and an exciting game to watch. But to start this early in the WNBA season where Indiana Fever fans always want to turn on you and blame the coach when they lost, when are we going to start holding some players accountable? When are we going to start holding some players accountable? Y'all want to hold DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard accountable for the loss last night and then throw Stephanie White under the bus. Everybody's talking about the last inbound play where you had a chance to win the game. They saying that I know that Stephanie White didn't draw that play up for Natasha Howard. That ball should have been in Caitlin Clark's hand. Let Caitlin Clark win the game. But I've always told y'all about Caitlin Clark. When it comes down to the weighing moments, it's like she's Gizmo. Like she always is not ready for that moment. Has always been big shot Kelsey Mitchell. But just because the Indiana Fever lost that game, and for the Indiana Fever fans to already start crashing out and turning their back on C.Sides, saying C.Sides is no better than, I mean, not C.Sides, but Stephanie White. They're saying that she's no better than C.Sides. That's what I'm trying to say. So I do apologize for that. That's what they're doing. They're trying to create this narrative that Stephanie White is no better than C.Sides. Now, you know all the grief that C.Sides got last year. Every game that they lost, they wanted to have C.Sides fired, talking about, well, C.Sides is not the coach that's really going to get the best out of Caitlin Clark. They complained about C.Sides taking Caitlin Clark out of the game. And then when she was logging heavy minutes, they complained about, why are you playing Caitlin Clark this many minutes? Well, last night, Stephanie White, she stuck up for her team. There was a couple plays that she challenged and stuff like that on bad foul calls. One time Aaliyah Boston was talking to the ref and Stephanie White stepped in and said, let me handle it. And basically Stephanie White was about to crash out. She stood up for her team, and that's what coaches do. Stephanie White is an exceptional coach. And for the Indiana Fever's fan base to turn their back on them and try to throw her under the bus already is just diabolical. Indiana Fever fans, stop and think for 1 second. Do you expect the Indiana Fever to go 44-0? Think about that. Do you expect the Indiana Fever to go 44-0? Stephanie White last night did a great job in coaching. She did the extra mode. She played strategically. It got down to a 1-possession game. What she did, she took Caitlin Clark out of the game for defensive purposes. And that's what you do. You hide your best player on defense or you get them off the floor. And that's what Stephanie White did. That's the signs of great coaches. Steve Kerr used to do that all the time with Steph Curry. 1-possession game and you need a stop. What we're going to do, we're going to get Steph Curry off the floor. We're going to bring some defensive guy in there. And that's what Stephanie White did last night. Because if you're a defensive liability, what teams are going to do? They're going to seek you out. They're going to haunt you out and put you in every pick and roll action. Now, you saw in the championship game in 2016, Steve Kerr left Steph Curry on the floor. And what did they do? They got the switch between J.R. Smith and Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving got that, matchup that he wanted with Steph Curry. And the rest is history. And that's the signs of great coaches. And Stephanie White did that. And everybody's pissed off because Natasha Howard missed that last shot. And they blaming Stephanie White for drawing up a terrible, play to get the ball to, Natasha Howard. But if you really look at it, they didn't even have time to set up a play because they called a timeout just to advance the ball. And then they had to inbound the ball. They couldn't set up a play. But if that's the case, Caitlin Clark should have went and got the ball. If that's who y'all want closing the game, she should have went and got the ball. Had 9 seconds left. She should have got the ball. And if she did get the ball, she should have kept the ball and got up a shot attempt. But no, the ball went to Natasha Howard. She missed the shot. And the Indiana Fever lose the game. And now you got Indiana Fever fans already trying to throw Stephanie White under the bus. And we had to deal with this all last year with the Indiana Fever fans and their fan base because they have their golden girl, Caitlin Clark, on their team. And every time that they lose, they never hold Caitlin Clark accountable. They always want to throw somebody else under the bus. They want to throw a teammate under the bus, or they want to throw the coach under the bus. And C.Sides was on the hot seat all last year just because of the fan base. When the narrative is out there, somebody's going to hear that narrative and people are going to push that narrative. And that stuff started, picking up steam and everybody started talking about C.Sides. Was she the right coach for the Indiana Fever? Now that they fired C.Sides, they brought Stephanie White in, and it's going to be the same thing this year. Every time Indiana Fever lose, y'all going to blame it on the coach. Man, you got to look at some of these YouTube content creators in the media space that are Indiana Fever fans and Caitlin Clark fans. They're on their channels creating this narrative already that Stephanie White is no better than C.Sides. Man, that's apples to oranges. Stephanie White is an exceptional coach. She did the right thing last night. Just tip your cap to the Atlanta Dream. Atlanta Dream was the better team last night, and they pulled off the victory, 91-90. So I'm going to see everybody in the comments section, man. I want to hear what y'all think about these Indiana Fever fans crashing out on Stephanie White already. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And just in case I forgot, Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. Going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.